Accessibility thing is so huge. You're right. Like people get to witness interviews with you and have fun and be live. And, people, if you have questions for these two amazing authors, please put them in the comments section. And we'll have time after this interview where Stephen and Byron can answer our questions. So I want to talk about the editor if we can. This book is so beautiful. I'm an aspiring writer myself. And I felt like this book was written for aspiring writers. I mean, the whole time there's this moment where James, our character, he's chugging coffee and he's trying to write the perfect ending. And I have so much empathy for him. My heart is pounding. Like literally my hands are like sweaty, feeling like these feelings that he has trying to get the right ending, and like the whole experience of what it's like to be in the publishing industry, what it's like to work with an editor and your agent. I love the agent in this book. He's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to us about, the impetus or your inspiration for bringing this book to us.
Sure. Well, to talk about the sort of genesis of the editor, I'm going to backtrack for a second and
Cool.
To my first novel, Lily and the Octopus, which was a deeply autobiographical novel that I wrote at a time when I was grieving, and I did sort of what writers tend to do, which is sit down and try to write ourselves out of a situation, write to understand. And because that was my only mission at the time, I never thought that it would be published, let alone that it would be translated in 19 languages.
19 languages?
Or that, there's a movie in development now, and, sort of all this craziness that I never could have dreamed of, which is good, because if I had, I don't know that I could have written as honestly as I did, or touched people in the way that the book seems to do. But when it came time to a follow-up, I wanted to write sort of about the experience of what happened to me, which is a writer armed with a candidly autobiographical novel, in this case, about his mother. There was a mother in Lily and the Octopus, and while I changed the other names, somehow readers cracked that code. It's difficult to change mom to disguise the identity. But anyhow, I wanted to write about a writer writing something deeply personal and how that experience sort of snowballed beyond his control. And in this case, I thought, well, what if his editor were the most famous editor in publishing, and more than that, one of the most famous women in the world, and that's Jackie Onassis. For anyone listening who doesn't remember, Jackie had a 15-year career in publishing after the death of her second husband, and it was a really interesting time in her life. I think she'd sublimated so much of her own personal identity to these two marriages, and once she was out of her second marriage, she really put her head down and went to work, and had this extraordinary career where she edited more than 100 titles. So the book is sort of a unexpected friendship with a young writer and Jackie O.
And she's just such, both of these books involve a really powerful female character that helps this young man kind of find himself, really. I mean, in both situations, I felt like they were very similar in that way. There's two young men, they're both gay, they both have difficult fathers. They're both trying to find their way in the world, not even feeling like maybe they're accepting themselves. And these two really powerful, iconic figures help them find themselves. And it's a beautiful path. Now, we just heard from you, Stephen, why you wrote this book. And I'm not surprised. It felt so real. I thought this has got to be some autobiographical. This feels so real to me. And I just kept wondering, did this happen? Like, is this part of your life, right?
Pull me aside and say, what was Jackie really like? And I have to, now those two
words
on the cover, a novel. She passed away in 1994, and sadly our paths never crossed. But I had a very supportive publisher and an editor, the great Sally Kim at Putnam, who's my editor, who put me in touch with some people, some of her former coworkers. I was able to talk to a writer who was edited by Jackie.
I was
Yeah,
going to ask you about
all
that.
sorts of research. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was really interesting. But it's a, you know, and then I read some of the books that she edited at the time that this book takes place, and there are a couple really terrific nonfiction books about her time in publishing. But this was a very private time in her life. So no matter no matter how much research I did, there's a certain element of it that is my interpretation of these facts or these experiences, and I just hope that it rings authentic for readers.
Oh my gosh, so authentic. I mean, I really, if you, I mean, obviously the time didn't mesh, so I figured you hadn't worked with her. But I just kept feeling like he must have read so much or talked to authors. It just feels so authentic. Lovely. It's so good. I love it.
Yeah, it was
Let's
important to get it right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And when you're writing about it, such an iconic figure. And, I had no idea that Jacqueline Onassis was an editor. So now, of course, and thank you, because in your acknowledgments, you do mention a couple books. If we want to learn more about her, we can go read those. So I really appreciated that, and I will.
You learn things in the acknowledgments.
You totally do. Don't ever skip your dessert, folks. You got to read those acknowledgments. A Star is Born.
Dessert first.
What's that?
Sometimes I have dessert first.
Some people do, and that's okay. I'm not judging you.
There are no rules. No rules.
Yeah.
A Star is Born. This book had me laughing, like out loud, where people in the house were like, what is she laughing at? I'm like, this book is so funny. But then all of a sudden I'm like sobbing. Well, not sobbing, but I'm like, it's so good. It's so rich. It's so raw. And there's these moments where I just love this character so much. And I just want to wrap my arms around him and take care of him. You know what I mean? But he's funny, but he hides that wit. Like it's all sort of inner dialogue. And by the way, Stephen, you do the same thing. A lot of great inner dialogue with both of these characters where we get to know them, but the people around them kind of have to wait, right? For their characters to come out. And I think that's part of it, is these powerful women help kind of draw the characters of these two men, right? But I have an odd question. Byron, talk to me about the significance of the number 3 in this book.
Well, all I can think is that there's the rule of 3 situation in writing that's talked about a lot. And when I'm reading, things I like to read often involve the same kind of patterns and rhythm. And books I like to read feel like you're on a train and it's moving and you're getting lots of information quickly and efficiently. And so for me, that's kind of where I think that's how that bled into what I was writing.
Okay, so we're not going to give it away, I guess. We're not going to give away what the heck I'm really talking about. You're going to have to read it to know what I'm talking about. But I noticed this pattern, and it really had this lovely rhythm. And now that you talk about being on a train, I get that. That feeling like you're moving along. That makes a lot of sense. But you did some really playful things with 3. The way, I won't even say anymore. People just have to read it. But I noticed and I appreciated it very much. The one thing thank you.
Yes.
The one thing I really loved, though, is just the humor and just the ridiculousness of some of these situations that our character is in. And I kept asking myself, how much of this is based on things that you've experienced? Maybe not necessarily with your time with Carrie Fisher, but like just being an assistant to someone who's really famous and bipolar. And I think someone that famous is, disconnected from the life that, I live. I don't know about you, but so how much of this was based on things that have really happened?
So there are some broad strokes that really happened. So Carrie and I did travel to see the Aurora Borealis, for example, and we did go to Japan together. But the details are all full of imagination. And so it's inspired by some real life, and there's some whispers of real life, but it really is fiction. And so much of it is just heightened. And, Carrie liked to write that style also, take real life and twist it into something fictionalized and exciting. And you can add more humor and you can take more liberties. And those are also the books that I like to read. So it was just a natural fit to take some real life experiences and turn them into some great fiction.
Well, this character really has this lovely journey. In the beginning of his life is just utter shit. I mean, if we're really gonna like, you know what I mean? Like he's just not doing great. Like he doesn't like his job, his cars. It runs
On a good day.
on a good day, right? He's just like everything feels like it's falling apart. He's had some extreme loss in his life, and he's had a difficult father, and he's this young man who's trying to make it in life, and his journey is so beautiful. I think also one of my favorite things about both of these books is they're coming of age, young gay men with difficult fathers, and they both find the perfect love in the end of this book, right? So I just fell in love with Daniel in The Editor, and I totally, and I fell in love with Reed in A Star Is Born, and I thought, okay, how much of these amazing characters were based on each other?
Well, I'll say for Reed, Reed is lots of imagination, but the bones remind me of Steve. So Reed is a loving and caring and thoughtful person. And there's actually a line in the book that is something that I know that Steve actually said to me once. I was having a long day. I think I was working for Carrie at the time. And I just needed to just stay home and eat ice cream for dinner and watch Battlestar Galactica or something. But we had a date. And so I called and I was like, sorry, I just don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. And I was just being honest and vulnerable. And I hadn't done that in previous relationships. Previously, I would have just forced myself out. And he said to me, hey, look, I'm here to make your life better, not more stressful. So we'll just hang out another day.
You're like, whoa.
Yeah, I was like, come over right now. Like that is like
I love you.
Perfect thing to say.
Yeah.
I don't say that now when it's like your turn to take the garbage out or something.
Yeah. I wish we could go back a little. Yeah.
Right.
Those were the early days.
Yeah.
And Daniel is, he's the kind of a hot Brazilian.
Yeah, I know. I was like, wait a minute.
Fiery Latin, but maybe there's a stability there and a dependability that and a calmness that I think inspired by Byron.
I would rather be hot, but that's okay. It's very sweet. I'll take it.
I think you are hot.
Thanks, baby.
I do too, for the record. I think you both are. I think you're fabulous, both of you.
Okay.
How much of writing these books was your intention to provide something for gay men who may be in a similar situation, who are trying to find themselves? I mean, did either of you, write this book for your younger selves?
I enjoyed writing a book that was not that had a gay character, but it wasn't centered around his life being gay. He was just a gay man who happened to have these experiences. And again, I feel like I've been talking a lot about books that I like to read, and those are books I like to read too, that aren't that are just a lot like my real life. Like I'm just a gay man doing my thing, going to a job, going to the grocery, and so there was a part of me that felt like that was important, and that was that was something to stake in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. The Editor takes place in the very early 1990s. And so that was a lifetime ago in terms of what life was like for gay men in America. More people were dying of AIDS in the early 1990s than in the 1980s. Gay marriage was not something anyone thought would be something they'd see in their lifetime back then. We've evolved so rapidly on some of these issues. So, and I also came out in the early 1990s myself. So when writing about that time, it's very easy to think that I was writing that for my younger self, because I was very vulnerable. And I'm also of an age now where the generation above me is largely missing. I didn't have the role models that other people coming out today hopefully have. One, visibility in the media wasn't the same, but two, it's like because of a horrible virus, a generation was gone, was missing. It was just ghosts, and so I did, not purposely try to write something for younger gay men, but also it's hard not to, because those were voices that were robbed from me, and
Sure.
if someone younger picks up my book now and connects with it, that's really wonderful.
I was also proud to do something that captures the honesty of like Charlie doesn't take his sexual health seriously in the book, and that's an honest part of life for many people, and then for him to date and see how there's some disappointments and there's some joy. All of that felt important to me, to just be honest and real. So I hope that all serves,
Byron, I really appreciated that, he didn't just find a guy and all of a sudden life was perfect. Like he did have to go through what we all go through when we're looking for that perfect person in our life. And I appreciated that, he went through that journey, and I took that journey with him. I think everyone can relate to it, whether it doesn't matter what sex you are, right? Finding the love of your life and finding that person that, is your person. And both of these characters find their person, and it's part of the heartwarming journey, for both of them. I want to talk about your writing habits. So both of you are writers, and I'm just curious what a day looks like in your house where, you both write. Like I sort of imagine, you come together at the end of the night with what you've written and you share, or, do you help each other along? It's like, it's such a solitary experience being a writer, but, tell us about how that works for you.
Well, for me, it starts early. So I get up like around 6 or so, and Tilda and I, our dog, we go outside. And then sometimes I start right away. Like if I have an idea, if I have something I want to dive into, I'll start writing. And then Steve gets up, and then we'll have coffee and check our phones. And Steve is really, I think you're a bit more disciplined than me. He'll go into the back room and he'll be gone for hours and hours.
The back room, not the bathroom.
Oh yeah, the back
From my office.
Either way, I get it.
Yeah. The main benefit for me, I think, some people say like, oh, I could never date another writer. But what's beneficial to me is that sometimes, it's a very solitary job. It's also a very sort of like internal job, and your brain doesn't necessarily stop come quitting time. There's a lot of writing that's done. Yeah, we have a little dog that's stuck there.
I was wondering. I'm like, you're getting shaky.
She's stuck under the lights. Here she is.
Hi, Tilda. Oh my God, she's adorable.
Yeah. So it's really great to have a partner who understands that sometimes, like, I'm not ready to just shut it off and sit there and talk at dinner, or, I'm still thinking, I'm still working some out. And sometimes you are not good company, but it's nice to have someone who understands the process, and did not take it personally when I'm like, no, I'm still in it. I'm still figuring this.
Well, that's a really good point. I imagine you have to give each other a little more space than maybe you normally would, if you had different jobs.
Yeah. But yeah, if someone was coming home at the end of the day and was ready to, and their work was at the office and clearly left behind, it's kind of a different lifestyle. And it's there's other days too where we have to deal with sometimes having a good career moment or a not great career moment. And, I'm sure there's been some jealousies and some, there's other things to navigate.
Totally.
But I find it beneficial more than.
Yeah, I love reading his work. I love it when he reads my work, and I always trust his opinion. So we share a lot. I know exactly what he means when he's like, I've had a great writing day. Sometimes I'll go back there to ask him a question about like the visa bill, and I'll be like, read me a sentence.
I'll be like, get out.
Yeah.
It's a little bit
no.
Yeah.
The hand.
It's really been nice. It's really nice.
Well, that's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Do you both write consistently every day?
Yeah, I try to do something every day. Now, for me, sometimes that writing is thinking. Sometimes it means walking around the block and trying to figure out what this character is about or what the scene is about. So sometimes it's going to the grocery store and observing like weird people. So I give myself writing credit for all that. So for me, it doesn't always have to be sitting in front of the laptop, but I do try to knock out some things every day. kind of
work,
consistent.
well, I work in spurts, I think. You know, I'll have like 10 solid days in a row, like go, 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 go. And then I come up for air, you know, and it could be 5 days where I don't write.
Mm-hmm.
It depends.
So, Byron, when did you know that you were going to write this book? Like, when did you decide I need to write a story about this world?
Well, it was since it's inspired by my time with Carrie Fisher. It really came to me after she passed away. I had posted a little tribute on Facebook with some photos of us and just a little bit about our adventures together and how much she meant to me. And there was a big reaction. People appreciated it and wanted to hear more. And so I just started. I started from the beginning about this guy at the gates to this celebrity's mansion, and I was really lucky because it just flowed and flowed and flowed, and it felt right, and it really does feel like suddenly I had something, and so it really started there.
Awesome. Well, I wonder, you know, did you ever think that maybe this is a memoir? Like, what made you decide to write a novel, make it fiction?
It was just more fun to write fiction. It's what I like to read. It's the way Carrie used to write. I could take creative liberties. And another thing is my time with Carrie was it was so meaningful. It was so fun. And I can say there really wasn't drama. And you do need some
you
fun.
need that for a good book. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't point to my real experiences with Carrie and say, oh, this was, you know, but I can put that on the pages of a fictionalized story, and so that's part of the charm of writing fiction.
I think it's because that's the way that she used to write, that it's just a lovely tribute in that.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
What was
Awesome.
her question?
Oh yeah, she used to say, take your broken heart and go make art. So she really was an advocate of take it and put it on paper, take it, make a film, get it out there.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful quote.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, they always say that, you know, the best part, you know, the wound, that's where the gold comes from, right? That's what my writing coach, Marnie Friedman, always tells me.
Oh, I love that. I think it's true too, don't you think?
Yeah.
In The Editor, let's talk about the pacing of these two books. So I feel like, and I wonder if this matches your personalities. I'm curious. I felt like The Editor, it was very consistently smooth. And I'm like, the pacing was just this perfect flow, right? And A Star Is Born were immediately rushing. And then the threes, you know, as you're reminding me of something, I wonder if I should read some examples, actually, to tell our readers.
Yeah, if you can find them. I will say that reflects the women at the heart of these books. You know,
yes,
not this very polished, very smooth.
That's it, very polished and smooth.
Wouldn't necessarily work in a book about her in the same way. But Carrie, a little more raw. Nerve out there, you know, holds nothing back. So I think the books are reflective of the women at their heart.
Yeah, and I think us a little bit. That's
probably a fair
us too.
point. Yeah.
Here's one that I love. This is where my writing background comes in handy. This is where certain policies become clear. This is where the first of my celebrity assistant rules are written in a Google Doc. And it's like you use the same beginning to every sentence in threes, and you do it throughout the book so consistently that at one point I stopped and I started writing them all down. I was like, oh, I see what's happening here. I can't say these words on this page, but I will tell you they're really good.
But you do it and it comes out like poetry. I do it and it feels like, oh, I didn't have a good writing day. I was just watching my word count that day.
Here's another one. The headline will read lamb. The headline will read amateur. The headline will read failure. So many moments like that where it's like so heart, there's so much heart in it. And I think that like the repetitive of the threes, you know, really brings that home in a way that does have that pacing. You know, our motion isn't smooth. We're not sailing. We're sort of running uphill like, oh my gosh, right? From the very moment where you hear hurry And this character starts hurrying, and he's hurrying to find whatever it is looking for. He does find it, which I love. Can you both of you talk about maybe your favorite moment in the book, or the moment where you were like, oh my God, this is it. This is great. I've got it. Byron?
So for me, I think it's the scene where Charlie and Kathy go to see the Northern Lights. And that was inspired by real life. Carrie used to get weather alerts all the time, and she got a weather alert. It was just like on a random Tuesday. Conditions are great for the Northern Lights. And so she got the
Let's
alert.
go.
She said, let's go. So it was book a flight, get to her house, get the suitcase packed, get on a plane. And the next thing you know, we're in Yellowknife, Canada. I had no winter clothes. I was wearing like a pea coat from H&M. And so she went and bought me like winter gear. And then next thing you know, we're spending the day dog sledding to kill time, as celebrities do. And then we're
I'm just trying to picture Jacqueline Onassis on a dog sled. And I can't.
Yeah, not so much, huh?
Well,
I could see it.
Yeah. And
But
then
it would be a lot smoother adventure.
Yeah.
It would be perfect.
Yeah.
And then we went and saw the lights, and we were standing on a frozen lake. And the cool thing for me observing Carrie's life is she really had almost every experience. She had traveled all over the world, sometimes twice in some places, and she never got to see the Northern Lights. And so it was really special to be there with her and watch her see something where she's genuinely in awe. And that was really cool. I'll never forget it.
Did you always know that that moment would need to be in this book when you sat down to start writing? Or did it sort of just happen organically?
I hate to say, like many experiences, I think when we're younger, we don't realize the impact that they're going to have. And it was a little bit like that for me also. And when I look back at my time with her, I think, man, I wish I would have kept a journal. I wish every detail would be I wish I knew every single detail. As it is, life with her was so interesting, and everything was heightened. There really were no boring moments. And because of that, like, I do remember things as just going to like the eye doctor as like an experience, because
right.
It's so fun. But I do wish I would have known when these things were happening just how significant they were.
Yeah. For me, I think it was the book's written. The editor's written in 5 sections, and the section on Martha's Vineyard is perhaps my favorite, or was the most fun to write. She did invite writers occasionally to her farm on Martha's Vineyard to work. I didn't invent that. But if I were going to write about it, or write about her doing that, I sort of wanted to lean into the fantasy of that a little bit. And also because James, the main character in this book, is writing about his mother. So he's sort of caught between his sort of own flawed mother and then the idealized version of sort of America's mother in Jackie Kennedy or Jackie Onassis. And so I thought it was really important to see her at home. What would this woman look like in a kitchen? What would she look like if she kicked her shoes off and tucked her legs under her as she sat on the couch?
It's very intimate.
A very intimate moment that a lot of people didn't get to see. What is that like? And that was the most fun section to write. The farm, her farm, Redgate Farm, went on the market last year. And I got a lot of email and a lot of Facebook messages telling me I should buy it, although it was $65 million. So just
change.
Anyone out there, any aspiring writers out there, I just want to make it clear that's not generally within the salary range of a novelist.
Dang it.
Sell more books. Sell more books.
Sell more books.
I wanted to buy either A Star Is Born or The Editor Tonight, and we'll put that in the fund, the slush fund for that.
Yeah. In The Editor, the character Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis really helps James, in his relationship with his mother. And you mentioned this, this idea that, they're both the female are both motherly figures. And I felt the same in A Star Is Born. And did this just happen for the two of you? Did you both write kind of a similar relationship with these young men and these iconic women who kind of helped them? And I realized it was a little different, Byron, in A Star Is Born, but she really was a mother figure to him for many reasons that he needed. And this just sort of happened. I mean,
well, for me, it mirrored a little bit my real life relationship with Carrie. She really was a mentor to me and a friend, and her presence in my life did make me feel alive and seen in a way that I didn't at the time. And I think that we find people in life when we need them, and we find the people who will say what we need to hear and give us the love that we need in the moment. And I think that's what happened in real life, and that's what I tried to give Charlie on the page.
I think, and for me, the real lesson for James in this book is finding the beauty in flaws. I needed someone to, who would be a complete contrast to his own mother, and working with someone as polished as Jackie O, it really makes him come to appreciate the flaws in his own mother, and that's how I think that there's real beauty in our flaws, in our humanity, and our shared humanity, and that's what's ultimately more interesting to write about.
Absolutely. Well done, both of you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Jennifer.
When they asked me if I would interview two authors, I thought, well, that's weird. And then I read the books and pardon me, what a great idea. I mean, both of these books, I think everyone should read both of them back to back, actually. And that's just not a sales pitch for Warwick's. I mean, I really, really, truly think that. They're such beautiful characters. They're so heartwarming. The humanity in both of these books is just absolutely beautiful. So thank you for writing them.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for all that. That's so nice. Thanks, Jennifer.
Yeah. And what's that?
Thanks for chatting with us. I know you have
my gosh.
Like yourself. My God.
Maybe also the microphone.
The microphone is killing it. Yes.
That's right. Over at the premise, we like things to sound good.
Yeah.
We had to rescue a dog out from under our ring light. So the level of sophistication over here is not the same.
I'm just glad to hear you have a ring light. And you're not backlit by a window.
Oh yeah, well,
perfect.
Once we knew we were going to be in this for the long haul this year, there were investments made.
I was just going to say, and it's so easy to do. And, I hope that, even when COVID is done, we can continue to meet like this and talk to authors and, help readers find books, because that's one thing that's happened with me during COVID is I've had this opportunity. I was talking to Julie before. I would not have normally found these books. My life was moving so fast and there was so much happening and I had a different trajectory. And, I've discovered two amazing books that I'm delighted to tell the world about. And I think readers have more opportunity to read. We're spending less time driving. We're spending more time kind of getting down to what we love. And for readers, I think that's kind of a beautiful thing. Though I do want
escape, but it also the way we buy books this year is different. I miss bookstores so much because I miss talking to my independent booksellers for recommendations. I miss browsing. There's so many great books that you sometimes discover by accident, and now
totally because of the cover.
With you have to have curbside pickup or order through your stores online.
Now,
Warwick's you have to know what you're looking for sometimes when you buy that way, and it's harder to discover new things.
You're totally right. You're absolutely right, which is why the death of record stores has been really awful for me. But Warwick's is open. They only allow a certain number of people in the store at a time.
I'm coming back on the screen.
Once she stole that sign for
we're talking about Warwick's.
We're talking about Warwick's now. I'm coming back in.
But I think these interviews is like such a better way for people like Julie, who's a curator of amazing books, to tell people about books. So this opportunity to share more and discover more. I think there's something good that's going to come out of all of this in the long run, and we'll continue this journey. Right, Julie?
I agree. I think there will be this is coming from an events director that lives and breathes having you come into the store. I distinctly remember Byron standing next to the counter meeting you at Lily and the Octopus.
Yeah.
And so I have, you know, there's something about those moments that you can't recreate really. And when you know, when we connected for this event, it was like, oh yeah, we're going. And I, you know, and those are the things that need to happen live.
Yeah.
You know.
And they will again.
Yeah.
And they will again. Well,
I didn't mean to cut you off, Jennifer,
No,
but I
do
was
you have
like,
any
I was
questions?
hearing all this Warwick stuff. And
it
I
was
like,
an
okay, I'm coming
invitation.
back on.
I knew you'd come back. I was normally I give more of a Julie, come back, but no, I knew you'd come in. But I just want to thank both of you gentlemen again. Thank you so much for this conversation and for sharing your stories, and it's been really lovely. And thank you, Julie.
Julie,
Absolutely.
did we have questions or?
We do. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna bring in
All right,
here.
Jennifer, that was a great conversation.
Thank you, Jennifer.
My
guys
pleasure.
have there's lots of people saying hi. So Cindy says hi, Byron and
Hi,
Steven.
Cindy.
Nicholas
Warwick
says, yeah. Nicholas says hi guys with lots of Z's. And then Amy is saying hello. So there's just lots of love out there. Love the book. And then we do have a couple questions. So Amy's got two. Her first one is, how is Byron? How is Byron feeling?
Byron's feeling great. I had testicular cancer 5 years ago, went away, no big deal, and then it came back. So this year, just before the book came out, I had chemo. You can see like my hair's growing back, and then I had a little surgery to take out the mass, and now I'm all good to go, doctors say. And so I'm feeling great and getting back to my normal self and running around and all the usual stuff. I'm feeling great.
Thank you for asking. I will tell you that he's being like chemo during a pandemic is no joke, and it's been a long year, but all worth it to have him well.
It was a drag, but there were beautiful moments where I met amazing
No war.
people.
Listen to you.
No war. My favorite, real quick, was a lady at the chemo center. I was getting chemo, and she was getting chemo, and she came up to me and was like, "Do you like color?" And I was like, "Oh no, this is a trap. What's happening?" And she knits, and so she knitted me this knit cap, and it was
every color.
It was a rainbow cap, and so it was just like little beautiful moments like that. I appreciate those.
And that you have to kind of grab when things are going so bad. You know what I mean? You really have, and that's like, it's, you know, I sit here some days and I think the world is literally burning around me. I'm going to be like this lone person with my tinfoil hat trying to talk to people out at Facebook. And it's like, and then you think, why am I doing this? But it's like, if I can bring, you know, any person just a little bit of light during all of this craziness around us, it's like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Until we flame it out. And then her next question, Amy had two questions, is what would Carrie Fisher say if she read your book?
Good question.
I think she'd be really proud of me. And I don't say that lightly, but she was always very supportive. I wrote and produced a feature film years ago, and she watched that and loved it. And I did a web series when my first testicular cancer diagnosis came out, and she tweeted about that. And so she was always supportive of what she preached, which was take your broken heart and go make art. And, but I think she would really dig it. She might even say like it wasn't graphic enough. You know, more sex, more violence, like
more crazy. Bring in more crazy. So Arlene says hi to Steven, hi to Byron.
Hi, Arlene.
Arlene.
And wish I was at Warwick's with you in person, as do we all.
Yeah.
But she loves seeing us here on
She
Facebook.
was there for the edit at Warwick's for the hardcover event.
Yep. Susan's all the way from Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh, hey,
and
Susan.
so she wanted to say hi, and she has a question for Byron too about his relationship with his dad.
Oh, my dad and I are pretty close. I love him, and he loves me. And I think, like most parents, if they could look back and make some adjustments, maybe they would. And so I think that's a little bit him too. But the dad in the book is very different from my dad in real life. So the dad in the book is very heightened. It's the darkest of dark imagination. that guy. And thankfully, I don't really know the dad in the book. And I should also say my mom, so Charlie in the book, his mom is dead. My mom's alive. She's cool. She's fine with it.
You killed me.
So the parents are very very different from real life, and all the characters are. Kathy is very different from how Carrie was, but my dad and I have a great relationship.
It's funny when you write autobiographical fiction sometimes, or fiction that has a kernel in real life, because people either don't want to be written about, or they see themselves very differently than you see them, or sometimes they're upset that they get left. What? You didn't write about me? What?
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Or they don't recognize themselves at all in certain characters. They'll be like, that guy was a real a-hole, and you're like, oh, that was,
Guess what? Guess who that was?
Yeah.
Okay, so Nicholas is stealing my thunder here. So Nicholas is saying Stephen and Byron are the best. But my question to you, Stephen, was can't wait for Guncle.
It's so good. It's so good. I think it's my favorite. And Lily and the Octopus has a character named Byron. But I'm telling you, Guncle is really special. It's really special.
So yeah, the Guncle, my new novel out next year, May 2021, coming. And if for anyone doesn't know what a guncle is, it is sort of the sort of portmanteau for gay uncle, and
of course.
kind of an Auntie Mame kind of story, an Uncle Mame kind of story. So really
can I share for those that do jump into the Twitter cesspool? Can I tell them about the video that you have on there?
Oh sure, yeah. I think it's my pinned tweet.
It's so great. It's so all of you out there go on to, I know Twitter, everybody's like, Twitter. I mean, I have to jump in.
It's on my Instagram too, if you're afraid of Twitter.
If you're afraid of Twitter. But it's brilliant.
Yeah, just a introductory video for the book, which I just put up.
And is there a little bit of the Guncle in the editor?
There is. For anybody who buys the editor paperback, the first two chapters of the Guncle are in the back as a little teaser.
Oh.
So Nicholas and Amy kind of have a little bit, there's kind of three different people that have asked the same question here. But Amy had said also that we did an event back with an author by the name of Grant Ginder. I don't know if you guys know Grant. I adore Grant too. He's one of my favorites. But that's how she discovered your book, Stephen, because Grant recommended your book at his event. And then you, Stephen, told everybody about Byron. So it's all this thing. So everybody wants to know, what are you guys reading and who are you recommending?
Well, it's all interconnected. And if this is the Nicholas, I think it is. He has a book coming out next year, which I'm very excited about. So
maybe we'll see Nicholas on the Warwick's.
No, we'll connect the two of you. It's all, it keeps going and going and going. Well, I just read Curtis Sittenfeld's Rodham because I was very interested to see how somebody else handled working a first lady into fiction.
And for me, I loved Heart of Junk by Luke Geddes, which is about a antique mall and all the different characters there and drama that they have to endure. And it actually reminded me a little bit about Carrie because she loved when we got to a new city to go to crazy stores and antique malls that they had it. The bigger, the weirder, the better. So I really loved that. I thought it was touching and humorous and a great fun read.
Excellent. And then he also wants to know, can there be a branded caftan for each of your books?
There
should be.
I'm gonna save totally.
Yeah, once you read the Guncle, you'll realize you'll need to be wearing a caftan while reading. Yeah.
While reading. Well, we have taken up way more of your time than we had anticipated, but it was such a great interview and it was so fun to talk.
It's been so fun. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, you saved us from having to talk to each other tonight.
Well, yeah, and that's another thing.
7 months into this quarantine.
Oh,
right?
Brutal, let me tell you. There's no homicide detectives coming to Palm Springs, okay?
No.
So Jeniffer, for people out there who want to know the premise or find more info about you, how should they do that?
Okay. You can listen to all of our Warwick's interviews and more on the premise at the festival website, San Diego writersfestival.com. And you can follow the premise on Twitter at podpremise. And you can follow me on Twitter at Jeniffer Grace.
Excellent.
Jennifer!
Yay, Jennifer. And then Byron,
Yeah.
you can only find me on Warwick.
If I could just say, please, please, please support your independent bookstores. We need them
Absolutely.
to survive this crisis. Many of them are hurting, and it means so much. Independent bookstores create jobs. They help the local economy. You know, if you order a book from your local independent store, it's really going to help them weather this. Start your holiday shopping if you need to.
Thank you.
Buy a gift certificate. There are lots of ways to help your independent bookstore.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's the thing that I think, thank you, Stephen, because it is true. And it's one of those things that we try to be positive about it. But the fact of the matter is business is down. We know that we're in the middle of a pandemic. We know there's a financial crisis. But for people who are going to buy a book, buy it from an independent bookstore. It doesn't have to be Warwick's, but for God's sakes, you don't need to have it. Because here's the thing that I always kind of crack up at. It's like, do you really need to have that book show up at your door the next day? Is that
No,
really
it's not good for the planet.
Exactly.
Amen to that.
We
Yeah.
don't want an army of drones dropping books from the sky. Like that's not a good thing. That's not a good
And it's just like there's as much as I love both of your books, it's like I don't know if I have to sit at my front door waiting for it to get there in 24 hours.
There are other things you can read for sure.
But,
Exactly.
but
used to
listen, it
have a
does.
snack somewhere.
It does show up quickly though. I order
It does.
books from Warwick's and it takes a couple days and I could drive 20 minutes and pick it up. And if I lived in La Jolla, you'd bring it to me at the beach.
Exactly. So
Couldn't get better than that.
We would. So yes. So thank you for that plug. So for you guys, Byron, do you dabble in that social media world very often?
Yeah, it's mostly, I'm on Twitter at Byron Lane, Facebook at Byron Lane. I have a website, byronlane.com. And then my Instagram is byronlane.com, DOTCOM, because some other guy took Byron Lane.
Damn him.
Yeah.
Damn him.
Can't win everything.
And I'm pretty much everywhere at Mr. Stephen Rowley or Mrs. Tevin Rowley, which someone tried to say. Why is your name? Why is it? No, it's Mr. Stephen Rowley.
Really?
You can't, and that person votes.
Life is so
Life
complicated.
is hard.
Yeah. And that person
is hard.
votes, for God's sakes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Sorry, I digress. Anyways, it's been so much fun. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody on Facebook, for watching. And till the next books, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
we'll
you.
keep writing. I mean, what else do we have to do?
I know.
Yeah, right?
Exactly.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, good night. We're off of Facebook Live now.
All right.